All right, Tony. You know what's really cool? 3 things that are cool.
What's
The United
cool,
States
Ryan?
Marine Corps,
Yes.
little kids,
Yes.
because they're fun, and toys.
Absolutely.
What can you do to put those 3 things together to tell our viewers something really cool?
Yeah, so every year, we do the Toys for Tots drive. We love it, right? Again, these toys actually end up going directly to the kids. So what we do is we put some boxes out and we collect toys, and that's what you can do. It doesn't necessarily have to be with Unique Computing Solutions. You can drop them off at any Toys for Tots facility. But the greatest thing about it is everything that you donate to this actually ends up in a little kid's hands at Christmas.
And, Christmas is a time for giving, and I know, Tony, you chose Toys for Tots a while back for us to do, and it's been probably one of the most fulfilling things that we do during the Christmas time for people in this area. So, and I do want to thank the Marine Corps and Toys for Tots and everything that they do. Yeah,
and in addition, if any of my customers have, Toys for Tots type of thing, I always donate to them. So, if you're a customer or if you're somebody in the community and you want me to donate gifts, just let me know. I'll go to the store. I love buying them and I donate them.
And there'll be a link for you guys how to find us to drop them off or other drop-off locations, because please, you don't have to just bring them to us. Just take them to any, because these kids do need it. Thank you.
Yeah. And, again, on a personal note, when I was very young, there's times when we didn't actually get gifts. So, we got gifts sometimes from our church and from other people. So a very long time ago, I'm pretty old now, but, we didn't always have, gifts at home. So it's a great opportunity for you to help, a family that, whatever reason, it doesn't matter why they're struggling. It's not the kid's fault or the child's fault. And they would love to get a gift from you. And, we would really appreciate it. We'll pick it up. You can drop it off here. You can pick it up. You can ship it to us, whatever it takes. If you want to give to Toys for Tots, we'll help you get it.
That's right. Every kid deserves a Christmas present.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening.
This is the Business Owners IT Podcast with Anthony Gerasch and Ryan Carter, where tomorrow's technology meets today's conversations.
Hi, I'm Tony Gerasch.
And I'm Ryan Carter, and this is the Business Owners IT Podcast.
A podcast where we discuss tips, tricks, and solutions for business owners involving all things tech.
What the SIEM is going on, Tony? Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so I don't know if everybody's ever heard of a SIEM, but today we're going to talk about what a SIEM is. And a SIEM is, the initials is SIEM. If you want to search more and do your own research, search SIEM. There'll be a lot out there about it. But what it actually stands for is Security, Information, and Event Management. Ooh. Okay, so it's a big word, SIEM. SIEMs are important. So we're going to do, what I'm going to do is, this is like the next level, right? So, for businesses, but a SIEM is a thing that's going to collect your event logs. So in this overview, we're just going to talk about a little bit what it is, right? So it basically is collecting all of your logs. Right?
Yep.
And it collects your logs from your firewalls, from your switches. Help me out here, Ryan. From your computers.
From anything that can send a log. So your event logs on your computers, your servers, your switches, your firewalls. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that we've
cloud
sent to
services.
Yeah, we've sent it from Huntress. We sent it from Microsoft to them. We've done a lot of different things. And I'll tell you what, business owners, this one here does not sound very exciting for you guys, and it really, really is not. However, like Tony said, this is kind of next level stuff. Have you ever asked that question, especially as your business is growing from that 25, 50 to 100 person, like, what is going on inside my network? Are people taking files and sending them to Dropbox, things like that? That's where we're going to get this information to be able to tell you guys what's going on inside your network. So,
or has somebody accessed your network from a public IP address, right? Is another thing. So, recent activity is of people attacking VPNs, guessing usernames and passwords, getting in through the VPN, and now they're basically on your system, right? And when you have a SIEM, all of those logs of that event, even if it's been, even if it's been thwarted, right? Even if the event has been thwarted, you still can collect all of those logs to see where they're at in one location. So what it does is it collects the logs, right? And the goal of it is to be able to detect hackers or detect, people or incidents that have happened, right?
Anomalies.
It could also be, you're not always just looking for, attackers in your network. There's been times where we've been asked to check on employees or check on vendors. If a vendor is in your system, right, there might be a way to help you see what they're doing, right? You could look and see, hey, this vendor was in for a long time. What was he doing? It collects all those logs and you can actually see it. It's like, and again, I have a checklist here. What they say, it's like a central nervous system of your security operations. So talk a little bit about the core functionalities, right? Log aggregation, right? That's the main thing. It pulls in all of these logs and puts them into a single platform, right? The correlation analyze, the SIEM can help find suspicious activity by connecting events across systems. So in most times when you have an event, what happens, right, is they pivot. So, hey, I found this thing that I can get into. I don't want to lose my access to this, so I'll pivot to something else in your network. So I still have my persistent hold here and work, and do other things, right? So that's what the SIEM helps you do. Alerting and reporting, right? They can alert you and report. And then forensics and auditing, right? So you can use it, again, to audit, to see if people in your company are getting in the IP addresses they shouldn't have no business in, and do things like that. So there's a lot of different types of SIEMs. We actually use one at Unique Computing Solutions. I'll talk a little bit more about the one that we use later and what it does with Ryan, because that's kind of his expertise. But he's the guy, that's the brains behind this. Now I'm just kind of driving, vision of what we should be doing. So types, yeah. So Ryan, you can help out with this. There's a few traditional on-premise type of SIEMs. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds, right? So I'm a fan of the on-premise SIEM. I mean, I like the fact that there's a device, right, and it's actually collecting the logs,
Yep,
and sending them out. There's also cloud-based SIEMs, right? So basically, all the data is actually going across the cloud, right? So that's another one. Hybrid SIEMs, both. That's really good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, having it both, and then your next generation SIEM and your XDR platform. So I don't want to get too much because this is pretty boring stuff, but we're using the next generation SIEM here, and we work with a company called SockSorter who does a terrific job for us, and they're actually our security operations center. They're collecting all of our logs, and why don't you take over here and talk about SockSorter and how they collect our logs and what they do for our customers and what they do for us.
Okay, let's think of it this way.
Sorry,
John,
this may bore you, but
John, you may need to help me out with this one a little bit if you want, but those guys that have seen The Matrix, do you remember when all the ones and zeros are flying, going crazy? So basically what you're doing when you're getting a SIEM is you're pointing all your logs. Everything that goes through your computer is being pointed at this SIEM. And I'm not kidding you. It's a computer that just sits there on your network and collects these logs. And that thing gets hot because that's how much it's collecting. So all those ones and zeros are flying through, but who's going to read those ones and zeros, right? What it does is it hits that SIEM, and then those logs are taken and sent to the security operations center. Now they have alerts set up inside the logging. They have all their stuff. They have probably a little bit of AI going on in the background to find new stuff going on. But those logs go to that 24-hour security operations center. And some top-notch company that really does it for us is SockSorter. Those guys have done a great job with taking our logs and then reading through those logs and finding something to alert on. If there's something to alert on, basically, or if there's someone in the network, or if someone's uploading files to a file sharing site, or just all of that great stuff. So we're taking all that crazy ones and zeros and we're sending it to them, and then someone's reading through it and going, okay, there's a problem here. And then they send us the ticket and then we act on it. So they're doing they're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, checking this stuff and then sending us alerts, waking me up at midnight saying, hey, there's something going on at this network. And I'm like, oh, great. And then I got to get up and make sure it's all right and good to go and all that fun stuff.
yeah, and SIEMs up until recently, it's a big company thing, right? Enterprise, right? And enterprise, will have SIEMs that collect all the data. And they have guys that are just sitting there watching it, right? That they have their own stuff built in. All they do is sit there and watch these logs all day. That's their whole job. And if they identify something, they investigate. That's their whole job. Okay. Well, for small business, they really can't have a guy to do that, right? And they're really not going to pay us to do that. So we use a company that works with a bunch of other IT providers. They put all these logs together and they do a good job of collecting the data and letting us know, right? The one thing I like, there's a lot of other SIEMs out there, right? So you're hearing this word SIEM a lot, SIEM. You'll see it all the time. There's companies like Huntress and ThreatLocker, and they have them, right? But they're only they're collecting the data just from the PCs, and they might do some of the firewalls and stuff. But I'm always a proponent of collecting it from the switch. I mean, the switches is the backbone of your network. And if you can mirror your switches to the SIEM, then you have a better chance of identifying something that's not a PC that's on your network.
Yep.
Right? So I always tell the story, NASA was hacked by a Raspberry Pi, which is just a little CPU plugged into the back of a TV, right? And they pivoted to that. They were in the computers. They pivoted to that, and then they used that as a way to get into other things in the network, right? And the key of it is that a SIEM would see that. They would see that camera. They would see that Internet of Things. They would see that doorbell. They would see that plant thing that somebody bought you that hooks up to the internet. They would see, your bird feeder that you bought that's taking pictures, that's connected to your network, that all of a sudden is transmitting logs.
Or your planter.
Yeah, I said planter, right? Yeah, we had a whole episode about a planter.
Shout
that
out
was
to
a
Ivy.
Smart planter.
Ivy. Is it Ivy? Is that the name?
Yes. Smart planter. So that's what we're looking for. So we're looking for things that people might plug into our network, right, that we don't even know about, that we're not collecting on as an IT provider, right? They bring computers all the time. We always tell them, do not connect to the private network. Do not connect to the private network. Always connect to the public network. But if they did, and there was a persistent hold, our SIEM would see that, even though we don't have an agent on it.
Right.
It's agentless. So, yeah. So that's why we like the thing. Now, we have a lot of people trying to sell us. There are some other companies trying to sell us. If they would ingest the switch logs, we might switch to them. But until they do that, we're not, until they ingest the mirrored ports, we're not going to switch.
We're not going to switch anyway.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, there's other ones out there that are collecting data, that have tried to sell me, and I say no because of that.
Yeah.
But we would consider it.
Okay, Tony. Okay.
Okay,
All right, let's get
it.
past all this fun stuff.
Okay,
Let's
so
get past
yeah,
that. Let's think about this. My company's growing. All this. What's the one reason that I'm going to need a SIEM?
Well, so it's my bullet point, right? What's the purpose and business value of a SIEM? So Ryan wants me to get past all of the boring stuff. Threat detection, brute force attacks, Internet of Things, compliancy.
Compliance.
Yeah, compliance.
Oh, there it is again.
Yes, CMMC, HIPAA, FTC safeguards, PCI, CIS. I mean, Group 4 or Group 3 or whatever. I think it's Group 3, but isn't there a Group 4 now or something?
For CIS, I don't know if there's Group 4.
Yeah, I think there's Group 3.
I think log ingestion is Group 2.
Cool. Yeah.
I think it is.
Visual of the central place, your central nervous system, a whole visual of your network, right? Root causes, right? Help identify root causes of somebody in your network or somebody doing something they're not supposed to be doing. And, the automation behind it and the AI that's being built into it and all this stuff reduces fatigue and operational efficiency, right? I mean, in the old days, you're sitting there looking at a log, it's just scrolling, so now they're collecting it and they're doing all this great things with it.
Yes. And if you have a lot of intellectual property within your business that's very important to you, that shouldn't be out, this would be another great reason to have something like this. If you don't have any compliance issues or anything like that, or you have to follow a guideline or anything like that, this is a good one. It'll keep your business safe and keep your documents safe and your your property safe.
And in our case, right, with our customers, it's not a required thing, but when you put it in, it's just a little setup, and it's a setup and forget. The biggest thing that we have to do with it is to make sure that it's always online and it's always running. And if it's offline, reboot it. But that's our biggest thing. It doesn't create a whole lot of work for us. Most business, every business that's of any size should probably have one and have some visibility into what's going on their network.
That's right. You don't want Neo in your matrix.
Right. Yeah. So with that, the whole purpose of it is to collect logs in a central location that'll help thwart an attack on your business. Anything else to add, Ryan?
I'm trying to think of a tip of the week for this one, and I guess if you need it, drop a comment down there and we'll help you out.
Yeah.
I really don't have much on SIEMs for like a tip of the week, like what should you do with it? Okay, if you have one, make sure you're logging the right stuff to it. He did say it set it and forget, but you need to put the right things in there to push those logs to it. There's event logs in Windows Server that do not automatically log in. We know that. And we need to make sure that those are being pushed to the SIEM. And companies like StockSounder, they're really good at telling us some of that new stuff that we need to be logging and event log and push out so that we get what we want.
Yeah, because out of the box, not all of the logs are collected. For example, typically out of the box, only logon failures are one of the things that are collected. Successful logons aren't collected. Well, when you're looking at hackers, you want to see the successful logins. You want to know that they were successful in logging in and what they got into, or even your employees or whoever. So my tip of the week is find, this is a business owner's IT podcast. Find an IT firm if you think this is something you want, and ask them about it. And ask them, do they do SIEMs and do they provide that service? And if they don't, then, maybe it's time to look for a different one. Give us a call. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll see you at episode, is that 70? Yeah, coming up.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Unique computing solutions. Your IT challenges solved.